Welcome back, everyone. Russia says it is considering imposing an arms embargo on South Sudan because of the fighting that has begun last week. This Monday, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon called a Security Council to discuss imposing an arms embargo. This was backed by the United States, Britain, Angola, France, and other council members. Although all members are monitoring closely the ceasefire called by both President Kiir and Mr. Machar that began on Monday, they are hoping an embargo will help prevent more fighting. As of yesterday, the UN said the ceasefire was still holding. We had to bring you the latest on the South Sudan ceasefire. Now let's move over to Burundi now, where political crisis is still a major issue in the country. 5 parties that participated in the country's presidential elections say they want nothing to do with the next round of peace talks, which they have boycotted. Their leaders say they are unhappy over the decision of the mediator, former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa, to invite Burundians accused of human rights violations and involvement in an attempted coup against President Pierre Nkurunziza in May last year. The government in Bujumbura also expressed its unhappiness over the inclusion of some participants, with Willy Nyamitwe, Nkurunziza's communications advisor, complaining on social media. Renewed violence in Burundi has alarmed a region where memories of the Rwandans' 1994 genocide remain raw. Like Rwanda, Burundi has an ethnic Hutu majority and Tutsi minority. Till now, the violence in Burundi has largely followed political rather than ethnic loyalties, but diplomats fear ethnic wounds could reopen the longer violence continues in that country, and that there are still a couple of conversations and negotiations going on to put that country in its right place. And now, the number of people affected by the combined impact of the El Nino and La Nina weather patterns could exceed 100 million by the end of the year. This is what the United Nations is saying. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization has also estimated that more than 60 million people, that's 2/3 of them in East and South Africa, are facing food shortages.
Of El Nino and a bad drought last year already means that there have been 2 bad seasons. So we expect that even next season, even if it is good, there will still be effects of these 2 seasons because farmers may not always have the seeds that they need. Some of the livestock will have died, so they will need to restock. So normalcy may not turn until about 2 seasons from now.
There is almost 200,000 people who are in immediate need and whose real challenges are very real, to do with food, to do with water, to do with their basic livelihoods. These are people who without aid would probably not live literally to see the next season, as opposed to the bulk of the population that might struggle, but these are the ones we don't want to leave behind because they are particularly vulnerable.
27-year-old Yassine Churchill Suwedi has walked the bustling alleys of Malawi's Indirande township since he was a child, watching a disenfranchised population struggle to make ends meet. He started a gym right at the heart of the township, located on the outskirts of the commercial capital, to help others lift themselves up, just like he did.
Perhaps maybe the solution lies in the supply side of the market. And also we need to look at how we can soften the conditions that are attached to the credits that are provided to those that are looking for small loans, micro, small, so that those that are not working can start something else other than just expecting to get a job elsewhere.
And we end in Ghana. It is too close to call whether Ghana's President John Mahama will win re-election in November. But on one score, success is starting to look attainable. The government is on course to get through an election year without triggering a fiscal crisis. In 2012, when the country last went to the polls, the budget deficit doubled to one of the highest rates in Africa as the ruling National Democratic Congress ramped up spending on civil service wages. Politicians and economists say there is no evidence of a repeat of that spree this time around, and Mahama has embarked on a pre-campaign Accounting to the People tour to highlight spending on infrastructure, hoping that voters will overlook the hardships brought on by a period of austerity if there are visible signs of development.
Inflation remains very high. It's still very high. It went up recently. The growth momentum has also slowed. It is not picking up as was expected. So we're really not doing that well. Government is really under a very precarious financial situation. There's not too much money, and one would have expected that government could have been able to at least borrow some money from the central bank to actually finance some of its budget.
And that's our program today. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Adeshewa Josh, and I'll see you again.